Good morning. Thank you all for joining me. I'm headed back to Washington, D.C. this week, where President Biden will deliver his State of the Union address to Congress. This historic annual gathering will allow President Biden to highlight his steady leadership and the extraordinary accomplishments we've achieved on a number of fronts that benefit America's families and our seniors. It's a message of strength and an agenda focused on making life better for your family and our community. And it's happening everywhere. Small businesses are benefiting from American investments made through the CHIPS and Science Act. Seniors now pay less for drug prices from the Inflation Reduction Act, which will also make a historic commitment to tackle climate change. Union workers are rebuilding our nation with the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and more of us are back to work with 12 million jobs created since President Biden took office, 500,000 created last month alone. Sadly, the reality of those accomplishments will be dismissed or perverted by the Republicans who now control the House of Representatives. Instead of tackling real problems facing South Floridians, House Republicans want to wage culture wars and meddle in the affairs of your House. It's happening in our nation's capital in Tallahassee and all across America, which is why I've asked Anabely Lopes to join me as my guest for the State of the Union address. She will share her harrowing story with you shortly, but what her attendance highlights is this. Republicans have no agenda for America, so they're hell-bent on heinously attacking and marginalizing women and minorities. We see it when Governor DeSantis ignores rent and property insurance reforms, but censors African American history and urges lawmakers to put more untrained gun owners on the street or threatens to shut down venues that host LGBTQ+ shows. DeSantis has no agenda to actually help Florida's families, so instead, he attacks and distracts. This same extremist playbook is on display in Washington. In their first month with the House gavel, extreme MAGA Republicans voted to let millionaire tax cheats off the hook and install a 30% national sales tax that would increase taxes on nearly every American. And let's not forget that their latest scheme to harm Social Security and Medicare in the name of reduction would mean an end to the benefits that seniors have spent their lives earning. With an obscene agenda like that, Republicans clearly only have attacking and distracting, which is why women have a target on their back right now. With the fall of Roe v. Wade, the criminalization of abortion access nationwide with no exceptions is well underway. Last year, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a 15-week abortion ban into law that offers no exceptions for rape, incest, or even human trafficking. And just last week, he promised an even more draconian restriction in our state to ban abortions as early as 6 weeks. And it could be even more restrictive once the legislative session starts. He's also now insisting that girls who want to play sports in school turn over their menstrual cycle details, including when they first started menstruating, when their last period was, and other deeply personal details that have absolutely nothing to do with whether they are healthy enough to play sports. At the state level, dozens of anti-choice bills have been proposed for the legislative session for 2023, and they include extreme restrictions on access to contraception or going as far as threatening women with felony charges for accessing care. In Congress, MAGA Republican officials have proposed and prioritized a national abortion ban, which would block millions of women from making their own decisions over our own bodies. In the very first week of the new Congress, extreme MAGA conservatives in the House passed a bill and a resolution that further erodes women's reproductive rights, right out of the gate, their first couple of bills. This shows you how high a priority it is for Republicans to take over women's bodies and allow the state to make decisions on their behalf as opposed to women being able to make their own decisions about their own health care. These specific measures incentivize violence by failing to condemn a history of violence against abortion providers and patients. And millions of Americans stand to lose under these vicious attacks on women, especially single working women of color. Beyond not having access to safe abortions, millions will be left out of economic participation, have less reproductive autonomy, and fewer rights to determine their own lives. But let's get real. These anti-choice extremists, they're not stopping at Roe. Some have filed legislation and lawsuits to block birth control, life-saving cancer screenings, HIV prevention, gender-affirming care, and more. These extremists are weaponizing the court system, and hostile state legislatures continue to strip people of their basic health care. While Democrats fight to lower healthcare costs and expand access, Republicans are doing all they can to cut it off. People, not politicians, must be free to make their own healthcare decisions. While extreme House Republicans scramble to govern, Democrats are fighting this harmful anti-choice agenda and working to ensure that people control their own lives, health, and bodies. Know this, I will never back down. We are united to protect access to abortion and contraception, and women's reproductive rights. This is not just a basic human rights issue, it's a kitchen table issue for any family worrying about how and when to raise a family, or for parents and grandparents who fear that their children will lose control of that fight. And this is the bottom line. The Republican members at the federal and state level will divide us and scapegoat women and minorities while doing nothing to address the real issues facing all Americans. While Republicans continue to hurt America's working families, Democrats will continue to make life better for all Americans. We're the ones who cut prescription drug costs and make sure our infrastructure is revitalized and that tech jobs stay here in America. Democrats worked to make streets safer with smart gun reforms and made sure that veterans exposed to toxins get the health care they need. We did all that, and we will fight like hell to make sure Republicans do not undercut Social Security and Medicare or drive the economy into a ditch just because they want to gut vital programs like these. Sadly, they are willing to hurt everyday families by pandering to extremists, special interests, and those small few with incredible wealth. But I won't stand for it, and I'm going to call it out every chance I can. And now you will hear from one of those individuals that were hurt, whose family and herself were hurt by the extremist policies that I and my colleagues are fighting against. My guest for the State of the Union address that will be given by President Biden tomorrow is Anabely Lopes. She was forced to leave the state of Florida for medically needed abortion because she received genetic testing results at week 16 of her pregnancy last July. She experienced direct consequences from these extremist policies, and I'm honored to have her here with me today and that she'll be joining me tomorrow. Annabelle, would you share your story?
Thank you, dear Congresswoman Schultz, for having me here to share my story. I have been married for 23 years. I'm a Catholic person. I studied in a Catholic school for 12 years in my country. I originally from Brazil. Last year, I got pregnant because my age, 43 years old, one miscarriage in 2020, and history of thrombosis, I was considered a high-risk pregnancy. As soon as I had my first visit to the maternal fetal doctor, I started to use the injections to prevent a blood clot. On June 15, 12 weeks, I received a blood test positive for a genetic disorder, possibly trisomy 18. On June 21st, 12 weeks and 6 days, I did the CVS exam. The doctor took a small sample of cells from my placenta using a large needle through my abdominal wall and uterus. On July 6, 15 weeks, I received the CVS result positive for trisomy 18. On July 7, 15 weeks in 1 day, the maternal fetal doctor explained that for me and my husband, the trisomy 18 is a very rare chromosomal disorder. Most babies with trisomy 18 die before they are born. The majority of those who make it to term die with 5 to 15 days, usually due to severe heart and lung defects. On July 13, I was 16 weeks. After the genetic counseling, as parents, we felt it was our duty to protect our daughter from the inevitable suffering if she were to make it to term. We made the painful decision to end our very wanted pregnancy. I went to the clinic here in Tamarack, and they explained about the law and exceptions after 15 weeks. They request letters from the doctors. The doctors were afraid to get involved. I think the law was new for them. They sent just the exams results and articles about trisomy 18. The clinic helped me to find a clinic out of Florida. They were very nice with me during these long 2 days. We booked the clinic in Washington, D.C., and on July 16, with 16 weeks and 3 days, unfortunately, I terminated my pregnancy.
Annabelle, thank you for sharing your story. I know that's difficult. No, stay with me. Are you okay answering questions if they have any?
Yeah.
We'd be happy to take any questions.
You said, you made a point to say our very wanted pregnancy. Can you talk about that? That not all people receiving abortion care are terminating an unwanted pregnancy?
Yeah, I want this pregnancy. I lost my first in 2020. I had a miscarriage with 10 weeks. And then I know my age, it's 44 now, but I tried normal, like no, yeah. And then I had this pregnancy, but the decision for this abortion, it was about her life, my daughter's life. I don't know if she born alive. I don't know my pregnancy until she died in my womb or something. And then I used to be a nurse in my country for 14 years. I know how is the disease, how is the disorders, how I don't want my daughter suffer with tubes and everything and die in 3 days or 4 days. I want it very much, but me, my husband, we thought about everything, and then decided. We don't know about my health too. At the end of this pregnancy, the thrombosis and everything. So we decided.
You were able to leave the state. What do you think, knowing that there are women out there in the same position as you who maybe for financial reasons or logistical reasons can't do that?
Yeah, but I think, let me say about the law, I think this time, because I have to weigh the results, I have to, to confirm the positive, the first exam was blood. So after that, I need to do this another test. So it was too long to receive the results. So the law is strict with 15 weeks, and restrict our decision, And then I think we need to change,
She's asking, you were able to afford and you had the ability to leave the state to terminate the pregnancy. How do you feel about the law related to people who might not be able to do that in a similar situation or at all?
Yeah, I think to help.
She's asking. Well, you asked.
Yeah. I'm
Ask-
sorry.
ask-
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
English is my second language,
Yeah.
and I'm a little bit nervous, and then
No.
Do you feel sorry for women who maybe a woman whose baby could have the same disorder,
Yeah.
a similar fetal disorder, who cannot leave the state, who isn't able to do what you were able to do, and there, we have this law. How do you feel putting yourself in their shoes?
No, I can imagine, how she can feel, because in these 2 days that I are fighting for these letters, I have suicide thoughts, because it was very painful for me to decide to do this. And I told my husband it's better to suicide than to do this. I can imagine, it's sad.
Ms. Lopez, so this was a matter of timing, isn't that right? And it was because of the delay in test results and the wait of test results that you went beyond the 15-week threshold, is that right? So this was no decision you made with respect to going beyond the threshold, right? This was because of medical reasons and test results you had to wait on.
Yeah, but to go to another state is because the doctors, they didn't want to do the letters that is under the law. The law, after 15 weeks, has exceptions. So for my case, they request the letters from the doctor saying about everything about that. They said to me that the baby cannot born alive, and if alive,
It was the fetal
ornament.
abnormality, right? And
Yeah,
nobody wanted to write off on
but
that.
they don't did that letters or sign, that all the information that they gave to me and my husband. They just send the results of exams, and this is the law not accepted.
And there was information with respect to fetal abnormality well before 15 weeks, correct?
Yeah.
Right.
You know, what I think he's asking is, you didn't wait till that late in your pregnancy and to get the testing. The testing took that long
Yeah.
before it could be confirmed
Yeah.
that this abnormality existed, and then that, at that point, that's when you knew that you realized you needed to make that decision to terminate the pregnancy so your daughter wouldn't suffer. It wasn't that, at 4 weeks you knew,
No.
yeah, so.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I think like the genetic exams and blood genetic exams, the results comes in 2 or 3 weeks, each one. So, but we start with 10 weeks, the
Correct.
blood. I took blood with 10, 12 weeks, I received the first result, and then I did the other one,
Which came after,
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah.
Lastly, ma'am, I appreciate you talking with us too. I know it's a sensitive matter. I would imagine you flew to Washington DC?
Yeah.
I mean, I would
Me
imagine
and my
that's
husband.
That's an ordeal, right? Can you talk about, you had to make reservations and hotel, talk for a minute just about that experience for us.
Yeah,
You weren't-
out of our financial, we did everything, their state. We booked the hotel, we booked the flight. I flight one day before, and then the next day I stay one day in the clinic, and then I came back the next day after the termination.
And just to clarify, your doctors, what they were telling you, they were afraid to put in a document to submit
They
to the
didn't
state?
tell me. They didn't know. This is a new law. We don't know exactly about the law. If we do this letter, we don't know if something happened with us, and then they were afraid to sign.
Because the Florida law also says that the doctor can be prosecuted if they terminate a pregnancy unlawfully. And so this was not that long after the state law in Florida took effect. And so since they only submitted articles as evidence of about the abnormality, and wouldn't put their name on a letter saying specifically, Anabely Lopes needs to have a termination and should be given an exception under the 15 weeks, and explaining it all, because what Ron DeSantis and the extremist Republicans in Florida have done is they have put doctors who are simply trying to take care of their patients and make sure that they can give them the best possible health care. They put them and their licenses and their freedom, because it's a criminal prosecution, at risk. And they have put women like Annabelle at risk of their own health care, because it's a dangerous situation to carry a pregnancy to term that has an abnormality on top of the thrombosis that she experienced, and then to not allow her and her husband to have the government decide what was the right thing to do, rather than Annabelle and her husband, for their own daughter and her own health care, is an outrageous example of how unacceptable this law is.
And the last question, just to clarify, she'll be accompanying you to the State of the Union?
To the State of the Union, yes.
What do you think your presence there means? Just, what do you think it means, you being there in front of the president and all of our leaders?
I try to change the situation and touch everybody about the situation. It's not about religion, or everything's about my body and my baby's life. And like I said, I am a Catholic. I never thought about abortion. I don't judge anybody, but has situations. And these situations, I thought for my health and my baby health.
Ma'am, there was pushback from your doctors, correct? In the sense that they didn't want to get involved in this process, and so they were kind of like hands-off-ish.
Yeah, because under a conversation in the office, they explained, they told me that the best decision to do that, but they didn't sign.
They wouldn't sign a document. Ma'am, is there not, Congresswoman, is there not Planned Parenthood, an advocacy group, your office? How do you go about it? Is there not an advocacy group that can step up and say, hey, this is problematic here, and this is what this patient is experiencing? And is there not an advocacy group that can move forward?
We have a Planned Parenthood representative here, as a
Oh,
matter of
well,
fact, that you
well,
are sitting
it's good
next,
to
standing
see you,
next to.
ma'am.
Sure.
Yeah.
So,
I'll hold that for you if you want.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Sure, yeah.
I'm Laura Goodhue with Planned Parenthood.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story.
You can say your name, please.
Laura Goodhue, I'm the Executive Director of the Florida Alliance of Planned Parenthood Affiliates. There, so the exception, the very, very narrow exceptions after 15 weeks is that 2 doctors must sign off if an abortion is necessary to save the life of the pregnant person, or if there is a fetal abnormality. So you need 2 physicians to sign that. And as the Congresswoman was talking about, these are criminal penalties, and it's new. And so these doctors who they're not thinking about, they just want to practice medicine and take care of their patient and do what is best for their patient. But instead, their hands are tied. And we've heard these stories across the state. We've heard them in hospitals just for miscarriage management, where 2 doctors or the hospital is really unwilling to sign off. So, I'm sure the clinic that you went to for care, they were very sympathetic, but then they had to find a second doctor. And that's one of the issues that they tried to amend out of the bill, including an amendment for rape and incest. And the Republicans in the Florida legislature voted down an amendment that would allow abortions past 15 weeks in cases of rape and incest, and that would, not require 2 physicians to sign off.
Just one physician to sign.
One physician, but that's what we're seeing as one of the many dramatic effects of this law.
So, just to be clear, the abnormality for Annabelle's baby is fatal. It was either, the baby was either gonna die in utero or very shortly after birth. And the state of Florida has put so many hurdles in the path of women to be able to address their unique, potentially dangerous healthcare situations, that it made it impossible for her to be able to do what was best for her own health and for the health of and likely end of the life of her baby in the state of Florida. And doctors here are so afraid of being put in jail for even trying to follow the law that it wasn't possible for a very clear example of an exception under Florida law. They were afraid, and that is likely played out all across the state of Florida. And look, in many situations, a woman wouldn't have the means or the capacity or the organization, organized ability to go to another place. It's unacceptable, and so making sure that we can highlight the extremism that has taken place in states across the country and that is about to get worse in the state of Florida as they start their legislative session, where Governor DeSantis has said that he is gonna take the law at least down to 6 weeks in the state of Florida. At 6 weeks, most women don't even know they're pregnant. I didn't find out I was pregnant with my 3rd child until I was 8 weeks pregnant. So, the extremism is beyond comprehension and is endangering people's lives. So that's why Annabelle is gonna join me, and I'm so really proud and thankful for your willingness and your courage to be able to go to Washington with me and tell your story. Thank you so much.